Tomás Insua is the global coordinator of the global Catholic climate movement.
Your Eminence, President of the United Nations General Assembly, distinguished faith leaders and authorities gathered here today, dear sisters and brothers. The Catholic community enthusiastically joins this interfaith statement on climate change and calls for heads of states to promptly sign and ratify the Paris Agreement. But most importantly, we call for a dramatic increase in the level of ambition of the national climate plans, or NDCs, of our governments, especially those from the most industrialized countries. We're very glad to see that the Paris Agreement enshrined the 1.5C goal, but we're deeply concerned about the huge gap between those nice words in the agreement and the actual action and policies from our governments. Inspired by Laudato Si, the encyclical of Pope Francis, we called for bold action to advance climate justice, bold action both from governments and from our faith communities, given we know that this is ultimately a spiritual crisis. We call for climate justice in the first place towards the poor, the poorest among us. We know that the climate crisis is ultimately a social crisis, that it's outrageously unfair and unjust that the poor have to pay the costs of this feast of overconsumption of the most wealthy. We call for climate justice towards my generation. I'm probably the youngest speaker today, in the name of the millennial generation and of generations to come after mine. I call on, especially on those who are in power today, to take responsibility for the actions that need to be taken. And third, we call for climate justice towards other species. We know that it's also a very sad reality that we are wiping out from this planet a massive amount of species. I'm glad to announce at the same time, today, right now, there's an expedition marching towards the North Pole, carrying a Laudato Si encyclical and this same call to action that we're making today. It's concerning that they're already 1 week delayed because of the ice cracks in the Arctic ice they're facing, and they asked me to express this severe status of the Arctic ice. And just to conclude, I would like to say that we, people of faith, are people of hope. We know that things can change, as Pope Francis wrote in his encyclical. We have the technology, we have the public support, we're just needing the political will to drive the transformations needed. Thank you very much.